Good morning and welcome to everybody here as well as those joining us online to Unity Spiritual Center, where our mission is all about transforming lives and inspiring people to make a positive difference in our world. Welcome to almost the beginning of a new year. I love this time of year. Aside from the fact they stick New Year's in the middle of winter, they could do something about that. But this is a chance to leave the past behind and start anew. In 2020, that gives you an idea. This is going to be 1 year of clear vision. Right on. My name is Alan Bassan, and I have the privilege of serving as your platform assistant this morning. So please take a moment now and silence your cell phones. But before you do, go ahead and let everybody you know that you're right here this morning. Also, you can let them know that they can check into Unity Spiritual Center live online. We want to begin our time together by sharing our opening affirmation. I will say it once and then ask you to repeat it with me. There is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God the Good. Together. There is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God the Good. This morning we will hear from Dr. Gary, who will be sharing this Sunday message entitled The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, and Reverend Jane will be leading the meditation. We are blessed musically this morning by Brian Wright, Sally Sledge, and her counterpart, Jim. All right, welcome. Let's now stand and sing our community song, Swing Wide the Doors. Good morning again. I'm now Linda with the announcements. Oh, wait a minute. I'm just catching something. No, she's sick today. I'm sorry. All right, we've got meditation classes starting Wednesday, January 8th at 6 p.m. with Mary. The White Stone ceremony this year will be January 5th. Islands of Insanity. No, Islands of Sanity. I knew. begins Saturday, January 11th at 10 a.m. with Reverend Jane. She'll be talking about how to converse with people with different views and explore how to do that. Good timing for that one right now. Our community member orientation will be January 12th at 12:30. And then on January 19th is our town hall meeting at 1 o'clock. It will be preceded by a Youth of Unity luncheon. That's it. Say goodnight, Linda.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. This is our time usually when we have someone come up and tell a transformational story about their life, whether it's something they have overcome in their life, or is it maybe something that a spiritual principle that they have put into practice and want to share that with all of us. And so we don't have anyone scheduled for today. It's usually the last Sunday of the month. But I wanted to get up and do a little pitch for any of you who may feel like you have a transformational story that you would like to share with all of us. I send you an outline that you can follow and ask several questions that you can write about. And we get it down to a 5 to 7 minute presentation. And then you come on up here and you share it with people. And this is a really important thing for us to be doing in our community. We're all about transforming lives here and inspiring people to make a positive difference in the world. And part of that means that we share with people how it's happening for us. And you never know who is listening that day. You never know what someone has gone through that day, that they may have shown up just to hear your message. So I want to invite anyone here who's interested or thinks they may have a story, or even if you think you don't have a story, let me know and I can send you the outline and you can take a look and see, oh, maybe there is something in my life that I've overcome that could help someone else. Maybe there is a time that I've practiced this principle that we always teach and it actually made a difference. So let me know. Just come and talk to me. I can give you more information. I can email you the outline, and we can go from there. So I want to invite all of us to be considering as we move into this new year of vision, how you might bless another person by sharing your story. Thank you. So I invite us all to just breathe in the beauty of those words right into our hearts as we join together for a time of prayer and meditation. So I invite you to settle into your seat, close your eyes if that's comfortable for you, and begin to notice what's happening in your body. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel your back against the chair. Notice any places of tension in your body, around your shoulders or your neck, around your eyes, your jaw. Any place that you notice that tension, just take a moment and relax. You can tense it up if you like and then relax if it just won't settle. But just know that this next few minutes is your time to set aside the cares and the worries and the activity of the day and tend to your soul. Turn within. And begin to follow your breath in and out. Just gently observe it. And with each breath, relax a little more. As you imagine breathing right into your heart. And as you do, bring into your mind's eye someone or something that you deeply appreciate, someone that you deeply love, maybe a cherished memory you have that gives you a feeling of joy. Just choose something that activates the feeling in your heart and allow that feeling to grow as it warms your heart. And with each breath, we let it expand and radiate as it fills your body. Notice what's happening in your body. Feel every cell alive with the vibration of appreciation, compassion, joy. And then let it radiate from within you as you share it with the world. And in this sacred sanctuary, we create together an energetic field of beauty and kindness and oneness in the silence. God is our source, our never-ending, ever-increasing source of love, of gratitude, of joy, of inspiration and abundance and health. All of these things available to us as we connect with that deeper dimension within us. And then we share it with the world. Every one of us here to be the one to make the difference, to bring that presence of peace and kindness to the world. Child of God, know your worth. You are here to make a difference. And for this opportunity to be spirit in expression, to be the avenue through which divine love is expressed in this world, we are grateful. And so it is. Amen.
I love Sundays like this. I love Sundays when it's a special Sunday, like Sunday before New Year's, when it's not something that everybody's going to come to because of weather and because of family and all the celebrations going on, but you guys are here. You guys came. You guys want to be part of something that's coming here is going to be able to create for you. And I do too. And I wanted us to begin in the acknowledgement that all of us came here today. And not only to receive, but to be a presence, to be a gift, to be a part of a consciousness that is seeking to come forth, to be birthed, to be brought into this new year. And we're on the heels of celebrating the birth of Jesus. And Jane has done, and all of us together as we've celebrated this through our number of different services, have really created a sense that, we're here to celebrate the acknowledgement that the birth of Jesus represents the awakening of our own awareness of who and what we are and who and what we've come here to be. We are God in expression. Each one of us is like Jesus, except that he knew it from the beginning. He had Mary and Joseph as parents, and we're still learning it. We're still getting the message of knowing our own worth. And so we metaphysically look at the holiday season and see that the birth of Jesus represents an awakening, an activation of our own conscious awareness of who we are and what we have come here to be and to express. And that is the difference that we can make in the world when we come from that place of love. And in the same sense, we're also doing another kind of celebration. The New Year baby also represents metaphysically the awakening of a dimension of ourself that is not tethered to anything in the past. Imagine having a part of yourself that's not tethered to anything that you've said or done, that you can welcome into your life and begin to grow that dimension of ourselves. Awaken that part of ourselves that's not tethered to any limitation or belief of less than or not good enough. I mean, to me, that requires of us the recognition that the new year represents symbolically, all of us all over are celebrating the new year everywhere, the recognition that we have an opportunity to reboot, to reset, to start over, to begin anew. There's something that is, that it's integral to our well-being is to know that we can do that. We can step outside of our yesterday self. and open ourselves to different possibilities. But we have to also know that in order for that new baby birth to happen, we have to nurture it. We have to do something other than just allow ourselves to be taken over by our yesterday self. I mean, when you think about it, we all have this yearning to kind of be born anew, or at least bring forth a greater version of ourselves. And we commonly frame this intentionality in the context of our effort to resolve that which is keeping us away from the expression of our well-being and worth, our issues, our challenges, our problems, the things that we find that are things that we would like to change about ourselves. And so we are collectively engaged in a recognition that this is an opportunity to bring forth a happy new me, a new version of myself. But yet at the same time, we also recognize the conundrum that this time of year, all the health clubs, they get increased memberships, all the dieting companies, they get all new kinds of members. And yet, after we make this earnest beginning, life tends to kind of run us over. And we have excuse, so we have rationale, we have reasons, we have stuff that gets in the way of our kind of following through with the effort to resolve to be better, or to lose the weight, or to quit this habit. And so we're kind of challenged insofar as entering into creating a new version of ourselves, because it's in the context of managing the dynamic of how we're so plugged into our world that seems to create our own sense of dis-ease or distress. And then we end up wrestling with the outer conditions of our life, thinking that those conditions are withholding something from us. And if we are to acquire any modicum of well-being or worth from the effort of being different, or showing up in a new way, or altering how we are in the effort to try to address something that we believe that is happening within us that's in the way of our receiving a greater good in our life. And we sometimes call that, a resolution. I'm going to resolve to be different. So, be honest now, how many of you have resolved to be different? How's it working for you? And isn't it true that sometimes the very efforts to kind of rein in a kind of a pattern in our life or behavior that we find not productive, that we may find ourselves succeeding only to find popping up somewhere else a different kind of compulsion, or a different kind of addiction, or a different kind of fascination that draws us into a behavior that is habitual, or a behavior that is meant to kind of give us a sense of feeling good about ourselves, but because there's such a depth of emptiness within, nothing that we do in the outer really resolves something that is really empty inside of us. And so it's not uncommon for us to see this time of year as an opportunity to one more time try to make the effort to address whatever it is that we believe is the problem within us. And so we have our New Year's resolution as an opportunity. But I want to begin by saying that whatever you have that you would like to get rid of, anybody have something that you'd like to get rid of? Let's be honest with it. So let's throw out some things that you'd like to be rid of. What are some examples of some compulsions, things that you might do that you wish you wouldn't do anymore? Sassiness. Too busy, okay. So sassiness, too busy. What else? Procrastination. Wait. Anxiety. Wait. So how many of you have found yourself overeating ever? How many of you have gone into spending as a way of kind of offering yourself a little bit of well-being? Anybody do spending? So there's a number of ways in which we have behaviors that, while we recognize that there's really no long-term benefit in some of these compulsions that we have that drive us, we nonetheless feel badly within ourselves for doing those kinds of things. Is that not the truth? That underlying all of our compulsions, the things that we know aren't good for us, and even though that we do those things anyway, we then in turn use those very situations to beat ourselves up. And then when we try to resolve that by doing a different behavior only to fail, we use that failure as evidence that we're not enough, that there's something wrong with us. This is the conundrum. Let's fix it, okay? Okay, so from now on, before we try to change any behavior that's connected to some discomfort that we're feeling within ourselves, before you try to change the behavior, you have to receive the gift of that compulsive behavior first. We're going to come back to this. Just put a bookmark here. I'm going to change the story. Okay? But it's all going to be connected in the end. All right. We talked about this already. So Charles Eisenstein, he's an author that has written several books. One of the books that we've studied here, A Beautiful World That Our Heart Knows Is Possible, was one of the books that we talked about. He's written a book on climate change and sacred economics. What I love about Charles Eisenstein is he's able to articulate and create a container for the craziness in the world. He's able to explain what's really underlying the dynamics that are so stressful and hard for us to cope with as we bear witness to what's happening in the world in the context of our spiritual yearning to have the world be a better place. And he emphasizes that in part of the challenge is that we're living in a story of separation. There's no reality of separation, but we live as if we're separate and apart from source, from each other, from the environment, and that belief that we're separate, the story that runs in the context of how we're having our life means that we live compelled to source our well-being and our discomfort outside of ourselves. That the dynamic of living in the story of separation means that we source outside of ourselves instead of within ourselves. And that phenomenon produces three habits of being. The first is the habit of struggle. This is according to Charles. The habit of struggle, the habit of lack, and the habit of judgment. And if you look at your life right now and what moves you into a place of discomfort, worry, or insufficiency, you'll see that it's connected to these struggles that live in the context of the story of separation. And so what if we were to really look more deeply at the ills that are existing that we struggle with and cope with as a society? And then as we look at our intent as spiritual beings to make a difference, what if we were to open ourselves to what that looks like to really get at the core of what the effort needs to be from within ourselves to translate into a better world that works for everybody? What would that look like? He has a 2-minute video to give us a sense.
Critics of conventional medicine are fond of pointing out that we address the symptoms without really looking into the deep causes. And the same is true whether it's geopolitics or climate or pretty much any of the crises that afflict our civilization. We tend to look at the most proximate cause, which is also the most easily addressed because it doesn't go into a deeply systemic level. And we're now realizing that none of our solutions are deep enough. And that even when the solutions seem to succeed, we end up with a different version of the same thing. So what is the deeper cause? There have been many candidates, for example, capitalism as the the seed of all of our current dysfunction. And I've spent many years of my life trying to understand what is the origin of the wrongness. And now you can say that there's no wrongness, that it's all perfect, that it's all good, but that metaphysical theory can meet my visceral sense that it's not supposed to be this way. The world can be so much more beautiful. So the answer that I came to at one point was that the origin of all of this is a story and a self-perception, a way of seeing the world that you could call separation, that says that we are separate beings in a world of other. From that naturally comes competition, naturally comes control, naturally comes domination. And we see the results all around us. Separation from nature, separation from each other, from lost parts of ourselves, and so on. I mean, yeah, it is the problem, but it's also a phase of a larger process that is coming into its fulfillment in our time.
So something's coming into fulfillment. Something's coming into fulfillment in our time. And so Charles Eisenstein, I saw on, as I was researching some ideas, that he believes that an age is coming to an end, and that the ending of the age is the end to the story of separation. We can no longer bring in a new year in the context of separation. We have to bring in our new year in the context of interbeing, our interconnection, our interdependency. We have to see ourselves larger than our isolated, small self. And as we do this, then we are in the question, okay, if the problem is the story, this pseudo-reality that we're separate and apart, if that's really the core issue, and if we were to end that story, if it's to change, if we were to actually do something that moves the needle to create a world that looks and feels a lot more in alignment with what we know is capable in our heart of hearts, then we really have to be addressing the core issue that is the kind of foundation of all the other issues, and that is we are believing that we're separate. We believe that we're separate from God. And we believe that we're separate from each other. But yet, most importantly, we have parts of ourself that we are separated from. Aspects of our own self that we have pushed away. And so what I'm suggesting is that part of our effort to really address the core issue of why we're in this effort to improve ourselves or to transform ourselves or to make the world a better place begins with healing the separation of our own inner child, of the little boy or little girl within us. Because until that rift gets repaired, until we welcome all of our parts home and are able to recognize that those parts of ourself that have been disowned or otherwise pushed away have happened due to conditions and circumstances of our lives where we were ill-equipped to take on the experience without believing that it was about us, instead of an experience that we've had to bring us into a greater demonstration of our well-being and worth. So I'm wanting us to think about our compulsions, the behaviors that we dislike, that we would cast a New Year's resolution or a spell to kind of rid ourselves from. I want us to begin to think of those dynamics as being connected to a part of ourself that is living in separation. And so, for instance, if you can just pick a compulsion, I'm going to pick a compulsion of mine that I don't have right now, but that has followed me all of my adult life, and that is I had a compulsion to buy books. Anybody else have a compulsion to buy books? Oh my God, I'm not the only one. I've lived in this belief that I'm the only one, and thank you so much. It's already healed part of me.
Tell me more.
And so maybe you can join the conversation. So I would use my credit card. I mean, that was the biggest invention that has kind of ruined the baby boomer generation. But I would use my credit card because I would feel not enough. I would feel like something's wrong. And so to buy a book and to feel like it represented who I was. I never read the books that I bought. But in the having of books, that's why it's a compulsive behavior. You see, a compulsive behavior, let's get it from the author of Compulsion, The Gift of Our Compulsions by Mary O'Malley. Remember, we studied a book also by this author called What's in the Way is the Way? Well, this is the book that preceded that book. And it's all about compulsions. And she says, to some degree, we are all compulsive. By compulsive, I mean engaging in reoccurring activity that eventually ends up managing us. So do you have behaviors in your life that are running you without your permission? Anybody? Raise your hand. It's just a fur ball. Cough it up. So we have to recognize that the compulsions of our life didn't happen to us, we acquired them. And if you look at a compulsion, you'll see that you began in earnest way to bring into your experience something that gave you a sense that I'm okay, I'm worthy, I deserve this. Except that that became a pattern for me. Every time I started to feel awful about myself, I'd pull out the credit card and I'd buy something for myself. And it would give me a feeling of well-being. But then I'd feel really pissed off at myself that I would do such a thing. And so that's like peeing on your leg. I don't know where that came from. So let me continue here because we need to get to the end of this. So our compulsions. So for me, the buying of books to give me a sense that I was somebody. Look at what I know. Here's all my books. I would display them, and I wouldn't show them to anybody. They'd be displayed for myself. But I worked myself out of that habit because, as many of you know, it's not my inclination to read. That's not my medium of taking in information. And so it became a imperative for me to see, well, this doesn't make any sense. So I got rid of all my books. I got rid of every book. And I hadn't bought a book for 20 years. But I went into a different compulsion. I started using the credit card to get myself the things I wanted. Because now if I could have things that other people had, I could feel like I was included in something that was otherwise withheld from me. And I got to a place where I became quite indebted or in debt in that practice and ultimately had to address that compulsion. And so part of what Mary O'Malley suggests in terms of addressing compulsions is to recognize that all compulsions are connected to the little boy or little girl that's still hurting inside. Every single one. Whatever we are doing to address the discomfort that we experience in opening to our own self is connected to the little boy or little girl. Still. And until we make our way through the through the wormhole of finding that place in us that's connected to the very compulsive behavior that we're trying to free ourselves from. We can change the compulsion, but because we haven't addressed little Gary and little Gary's belief that he is not enough, I can go from buying books to buying electronics to food to whatever. I can just change the way in which I'm trying to resolve the emptiness inside of me, but little Gary is still living in not enough. So no diet is going to work. No program is necessarily going to fill the void. But as we begin to practice being in relationship with those aspects of ourselves that we would otherwise push away, we don't want to feel this sense of inadequacy, this sense of I'm a disappointment, this sense that I don't matter. But what if we brought it in? And Mary O'Malley says, curiosity, you use a whole different circuit in your brain. It's not tethered to anything in your past. When you turn on the circuits of curiosity, you're entering into what could be called the weatherman's perspective. You know, when the weather person does the current conditions, they're not making up what the reality of the weather is. They're just simply reporting it. It's probably the only thing on TV that represents reality. The weather. No one can argue this is what the weather is in the moment. So when we bring that same intentionality to the dynamic of our experience of, for instance, pleasure, not enough, but yet being the question, why am I making this mean that this is not enough? And we begin to bring that curiosity to the dynamic that we're having. And when I bring that part of my cognitive capacity to my own practice of being insufficient, my own commitment to having my life look insufficient, I ask the question, why am I doing that to myself? No one has a gun to my head or a knife to my throat. I am doing that to myself. And how is it possible that I do that to myself? Because little Gary is still living in the belief that he is not enough. And if I don't go down and meet little Gary where little Gary is, I don't get a chance to do what I need to do with little Gary that only I can do. And that is to pick little Gary up and with self-compassion, love that part of myself that has inadvertently believed that he was less than. That's not the truth. Inadvertently believed that he was not enough. That is not the truth. And so when we're able to recognize that my experience of lack in the outer is linked to that missing relationship, I stop trying to get more. Because there's no getting anything more when little Gary is in not enough. I have to start being more to little Gary. And then once I'm able to resolve that sense that I'm not enough, and then I bring that awareness to what I'm having, and it may look like there's not enough out there, but I use what's out there. Because what's out there is my abundance, regardless of the story I'm making up about it. We can either experience our life as it really is, or we can experience our life through the story that we've made up about it. Only one approach is going to produce a shift in our consciousness and the capacity to be with what we're having and use it for a greater good. So I want to kind of conclude this by saying that Jane and I, we have this practice of when we drive, it's a 2-hour drive to Kettle Falls, 2 hours back, and so we read. She reads, I listen, and we have conversations. And so we've been reading Compulsions by Mary O'Malley this last week. And actually, we spent Christmas Day night at our tiny home and talked about this at some length. But she says that when we are believing that our compulsions are against us, we practice as if they are like an enemy, and we become like a fighter, a soldier. And we try to vanquish the behaviors that cause us to feel ashamed or cause us to feel inadequate when we fail. And when we have that attitude that we have to fight against those dynamics in our life, rather than to really look at them as ways in which we're going to be brought into a dynamic relationship within our own integration, until we are able to shift that, we have to begin to understand that there's a distinction between being a soldier and fighting an enemy and being a warrior that needs noble adversaries. The way of the peaceful warrior welcomes noble adversaries because it is the adversary that hones a warrior's craft. We need the conditions of our life to bring us into ownership and our full power to be the one unto our own life and to make a difference in our world. And until we are able to shift that dynamic with the compulsions in our life and really see those compulsions as being opportunities to discover the little boy or little girl in the midst of their own isolation and separation, we begin to heal the stories that we tell in our lives. All you have to do is listen to your stories that you tell, and you'll see where you're living. You're living in the story of separation when you talk about how your life is against you or who's the matter with you. But when you live in the story of your oneness and connection and inner being, you still have problems, but they're not against you. You still have challenges, but they bring you into a greater intentionality that brings you into an expression of new gifts and ways in which you can be. So as we look at the new year and see that part of our effort as a spiritual community, as we seek to create an energetic field that in the field itself can become a container for transformation, for integration, for healing, for our experiencing awakening, for our experiencing the gifts of spirit. If we can see that we're creating this energetic field that enables that to be what is given unto us because we know that that's the reality that we can welcome into our life, then we will find that, yes, while we have compulsions, I can go into great detail with mine, but I don't feel bad about myself when I recognize that this is something that's connected to a part of me that I need to welcome. Now, Mary O'Malley, I'll just end with this, says that it's not our intent to try to rid ourselves of all compulsion. It's our intent to rid ourselves of all the ways in which we have our life against us and begin to see the truth of who we are and recognize that we have to have experiences that hone our craft, hone our capacity to be the one to make the difference. I'm really, really, really glad that we all showed up today. God bless you. Thank you.
Now, before you guys leave here this morning, I want you to pick up your compulsion hairballs you put out, because otherwise B is going to be really upset, okay? Unity stands for peace in the presence of conflict, for love in the presence of hatred, and for forgiveness in the presence of injury. Unity honors the many names for God, the many paths to God, for we know that there is only one power and one presence and one life. So whoever you are and wherever you are on your spiritual journey, we welcome you here this morning. We would especially like to welcome anyone here for the very first time. Is there anybody there that's brave enough to raise your hand? What? Oh, Oh, I see a tentative hand back there. All right, we got you. We got you. Our usher will deliver you a packet, and on the outside of the packet, there's a form you can fill out to be added to our mailing list for our weekly e-news update and our quarterly newsletter. If you're interested, please fill it in and drop it in the love offering basket as it comes around instead of giving a donation today. Also, and this is for those who didn't raise their hand, after the service, you get a free coffee of your choice at our barista stand. So there you go. If you have any questions and would like a name tag, please visit our information desk out there in the foyer and speak to one of our welcome team members. We're really glad you're here. We would like to welcome anybody who is online this morning. Thank you for joining us this morning. Now it is time to welcome and greet each other with a handshake, a hug, a high five, a wave, a namaste, a curtsy, an Eskimo kiss, whatever cranks your tractor. So let's go with our welcome song, All Friends Here.
It still works. I thought Don maybe would break it last year. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jim Sledge, and I have the privilege of being the treasurer on your board of trustees, and this is a time of our community giving. The board would like to express its appreciation for everyone who in the last year has chosen to become a financial supporter of this amazing, amazing place called Unity Spiritual Center. And we look forward to many more of you joining us financially with your gifts in the next year of 2020, because we know it's going to be an amazing year, and we're going to reach our goal of supporting this entire place and all of its activities with your gifts. So with that 2020 resolution in mind, let's take that thought into our hearts and say our prosperity blessing together. Together, I know that my giving blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I give and receive. I give thanks for the abundance that is mine to share, and so it is.
Well, thank you, Sally and Brian. It was awesome. All right, we give thanks for these gifts and for those who have given them as we send them forth to bless our world. And so it is. Amen. As we are giving thanks for those gifts we are receiving here at Unity Spiritual Center, we want to take time to thank those in service to our ministry. Today we are saying a special thank you to everyone that helped make our Christmas Eve candlelight special service so special. So would anyone here who took part in either holding a sacred space that night, welcoming people, to lighting candles, to ushering, performing, the message, anybody who had a part in it, please stand and be recognized. Thank you, one and all. We're grateful for your service, and this place cannot run without you guys. Our chaplains today are, I believe, Tim and Amber, and Frida has been holding space as one of the chaplains does every Sunday service in the back. If anybody here needs some assistance to tell them something that's heavy in your heart or something you like to celebrate, one of them will be down front on each side of the sanctuary after the service. So thank you guys. You can also fill out a prayer request form found in the seat pocket in front of you and put it in one of our prayer boxes. There's one in the back of the sanctuary and one out in the foyer. Our prayer team here will pray for you, over you for 7 days, and then our prayers will be sent to Silent Unity where they'll be prayed upon for another 30. And if you know someone who is in the hospital and has requested a visit from one of our chaplains, again, please fill out the visitation request form in the seat back pocket and place it in the prayer box as well. All right, it's about time for our kids, so someone back there want to swing open those doors wide?
Swing wide the door.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. All right, we are very grateful for all of the young people here at Unity Spiritual Center. Please take a moment and bless our children, our youth, and those in service to our youth ministry. Be the love you are. Sing the song you hear. Share your joy of life with people far and near, and for ourselves. Be the love we are. Sing the song we hear. Share our joy of life with people far and near. All right, guys, go back and find your families or whoever else you want to go with. All right, if you please stand as you are able and join together for our closing prayer, followed by the peace song. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well, and that's the truth.
Join us next Sunday for our White Stone ceremony. The Reverend Dr. Jane will lead us in.